without further ado, the reason for today's class is to set up how people can run as a leader, as a group leader, run a dungeon. Now, Argalind is here, so I am sure that there are a lot of you have the note cards, and if not, I'm certain that he would be more than amiable to pass those to you. And those are good. But the key element to being the leader of a dungeon is to be able to gather your forces together, to know who's in your party and what they're capable of doing. Yes, that is the leader's job. It's not the dungeon master or the judge, it's the leader. Now you may think, okay, well, isn't that a lot of stuff? Well, not necessarily. It actually can be very fast and easy. Yeah, I know it may seem like a great deal of work, but not necessarily so. You may look at it and think, okay, I can't tell who all's going to be here. Well, that's true. Yeah, you don't know who all's going to be there, but it's your job as leader to try to figure it out. You figure, okay, you're going to have like 5 players in your party, and so you look at it and think, all right, these are the number of people who have put themselves out there that they want to go. So what class are they? What level are they? Are they looking for a meter run, or are they looking for a paradise run? Now, for those of you that don't know the difference, a paradise run is basically pure role play. It's basically pure role play, and you roll the dice to find out how the monsters do. That's why the paragraph dice. That's what paradise means. So but yes, the disadvantage is such. Okay, yes, easy mode is not inaccurate, but the disadvantage to that is that it takes a really, really long time. Okay, so you need to know that you're getting into that before you go into that. Plan on, if you're going to do a paradise run, it's going to take 3 or 4 hour runs in order to get through a dungeon. Okay? You're not going to get through it in one shot. It's just not going to happen. If you are the type that prefer to type out an entire paragraph each time, which there's nothing wrong with that, all right? I'm not saying there is, but if that's how you want to run your dungeon, that's fine. But do keep in mind that the dungeon is going to take a really long time, and you need to be prepared for that. And don't plan on being able to finish in one shot. Okay? All right. So That's just something to think about when you're setting up your group. All right. Obviously, before that, well, actually, you can already be thinking about that. What kind of, as a leader, what kind do you want to run? Okay. All right. You may go into it thinking, okay, I'm going to collect only Paradise players. Okay, cool. You already know that. You walked into it. You should be thinking about that. See, the DMs and the judges, they're not going to know those things until later because they'll collect everything. They'll say, okay, this is a Paradise run or this is a meter run. All right. They know that what it's going to take. They already know it's going to take 4 hours per shot. And 4 hours will probably get you through a meter run. Just remember that when you're doing a dungeon crawl, give yourself about 4 hours because there's a lot of stuff going on. Even if you are doing meters and you have combat, there's a lot of stuff going on because you're exploring a dungeon for one. So you're going to want to look around. You're going to find things on the ground. You're going to want to role play with them. And everything you're doing is your role plan. Okay? Listen to your DM. Here's the next key element. Yes, I know I'm going to bounce around, so I apologize to everyone for that. But it's kind of how I roll, as they say. Okay. So if I do bounce off to a different topic, remind me. Say, hey, we were talking about this thing. I know. That's one of the reasons I always ask for questions, because I need to know what you want to know about. So that will continue forward. Anyway, listen to your dungeon master. Your dungeon master is going to tell you what the environment is like. The environment is the most important thing around you. Okay? That's the most important thing. If you're not paying attention to the environment, bad things can happen. Yeah, I will skip around, but along these same lines. If your dungeon master has monsters breathing down your neck and you happen to be in voice and he or she is making monster noises, ask him, hey, do I hear that? Because chances are you do, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it in the first place. Now, of course, you may have somebody who has a cold and it's on accident, but hey, right? Don't assume that. Ask them, say, hey, is that what I hear? And say, yes, it is. So be on your toes at that moment, because that means that right around the corner, something's happening. Okay. Backing up a little bit to where we began. When you're gathering your party together, obviously, first thing you need to know is, are you doing a meter run or a Paradise run? You need to know what days you're doing it on. It's like, all right, you're the leader. You know that you have Sunday from 1 to 4 available. All right? So when you're looking through those list of players that have put in for the runs, you look for players that can manage a Sunday 1 to 4 run. That's important. Okay? And if you're looking, and if you're a Paradiser, then you want to look for players that are looking at doing 3 or 4 of those. Okay? Or let's say that you have Mondays and Wednesdays available. So that's what you're looking at too. Next thing you want to do, you want to look at party makeup. When you're looking at your party, excuse me, when you're looking at your party, you want to make sure that you have full consistency, full contingency, both. If you have, you need to have a healer in your party. It's pretty much imperative. Otherwise you're going to die. You might die anyway, but, it decreases the chances of death, decreases the chances of failure if you have a healer in your party. Sorry, I have to tell people, hey, I'm teaching a class. All right. So when you're looking at the party makeup, you say, all right, I know I need a healer. That's a good thing. You're also going to want a mage, because there are a lot of things out there that are considerably easier with spellcraft at your side. Okay? Very important thing. I could give a million examples, but I'll wait for questions on that one. Other things of interest when you're setting up your party. What professions do people have? Okay. Do you have, are there any miners in that have put themselves out there? Are there any foresters that have put themselves out there? Are there any leather workers that have put themselves out there? Because all those professions will help you with gathering in the deep roads. Because not only are there monsters, not only are there traps, not only are there secret doors and hidden objects and hidden items, but there are also trees, veins of metal, wild animals, and all of those things provide materials to bring back to a leather worker, blacksmith, carpenter, etc., to move forward. And yes, all of that is roleplay. That is the key element for the deep roads. The key reason the deep roads exists is to provide long-running roleplay. And yes, the pure roleplay reason for the deep roads is the fact that it is the ancient dark elven fallen empire that was taken over by the dwarves and tried to be rebuilt. Ultimately, it had been, the reason it was destroyed in the first place was the Illithid and the Metallica. Therefore, you will sometimes encounter Metallica and Illithid in the Deep Roads. Those are your most powerful villains out there. But also, do not be surprised to find Deep Lizard Men or Kuatoa or Basilisk, Cockatrice, Beholders. If it's a monster of any variety, do consider it may be there. Because when the Deep Roads fell, when the Dark Elven Empire fell, everybody found a home. All of these beasties found a home in the ancient empire, away from everyone else. That allowed them to flourish. And therefore, there may be huge nests there. Okay? There also may be, smaller little clans like harpies or driders. Although most of the time, if you encounter driders, they're either going to be some pretty tough villains or quite the opposite. Of course, I can say that about pretty much everything in there, with the exception of Metallicae and Illithid. Those are always going to be villains. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you encounter the two major baddies, they are going to be bad. Yes, you may also encounter a deep dragon. It's depending on your party makeup, they are extremely tough. Which brings me to another question before I move forward, or an answer, I suppose. Yes, the monsters in the Deep Roads are tougher than players. NPCs, by their very nature, are stronger and more powerful than players. They are meant that way to be challenging. If you just had the same level of monsters in the Deep Roads as you do on a regular level, where's the challenge in that, right? Player versus player, you have done that. Many of you, or those of you that have been in the GA for a while, have had plenty of player versus player experience. That occurs when the political realms collide. The Deep Roads are a much greater threat than any political issue that you could ever possess. And it's meant that way. The reason for the Great Alliance in the first place was set up because everyone had to come together against a greater enemy. There are more than one major enemies, but the biggest and baddest reside in the deep roads. Okay, back to as a leader, what are your responsibilities? Okay, first one, figure out what kind of run you want. Second one, figure out what your party makeup is. Third one, contact the dungeon masters. Now, Argolin's is my head dungeon master. So if you can reach him, he's the first person to go to. But if you cannot, is Acacia in this room? I can't see everyone, I apologize. But, okay. Acacia Rose also is one of my dungeon masters. She seems to be more geared towards the Paradise runs, but, she's still a dungeon master. And is capable of doing both. But here nor there, she is someone that will be able to help you out. The judges. Every member of the judge corps, whether they've done a run or not, which some of them have and some of them haven't, they all have the ability to reach out to everyone else. So even if they can't answer a question, even if they can't tell you, okay, this is when we have one scheduled, they can find out. All right? Because yes, all of my dungeon masters have lives. We all have real lives as well. If not, then we would all just be pixels, wouldn't we? So that's the next thing you got to do is contact your DM or your judges. Most of them, I believe that there's a list at the Lion's Head by the board. If there isn't, there should be, and I will make sure it gets there. Because it's important. Okay, good. I thought so. It is important to be able to contact the DMs and the judges so that you can make those arrangements. Because that is a very important third thing. So basically, you've got number one, you've got you're a paradise run or a meter run. Number two, collect your party together. Now, part of that is setting up times, and part of that is knowing what classes and professions they are. Okay? And then setting up with the DM. All right? Those are the basic 5 elements. Once you have those, you're there. And the monsters, whether it's a paradise run or an NPC run, a meter run, I do hope my plan, my theory, in a perfect world, is that there are monsters at every one of those. Okay? That duty will fall upon the judges and the dungeon masters. You as the lead, you have to contact the DM and or the judges. The DM and or the judges will arrange for monsters. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that part. Okay, that's on them. basic setup. Once you get, after those are the things. Those are the 5 things you need to do. So before we move forward into actually running the event, are there any questions thus far? Okay. All right. So the next thing, you've already done the setup, which is actually the hard part. Okay. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Once you make contact with your DM, don't just do it once. Okay? Yes. Once you make contact with that DM and say, "Hey, okay, I want to do a meter run on Friday from 4 to 8." Okay? Keep in contact with that DM. So, because that DM's going to want to know, okay, have you got your party together? How many people do you have in your party? Do you have everybody you need? Are you sure they are going to be there? Because you as party leader, that's your job. Your job's to make sure your party is there. And make sure that they're on time, if at all possible. And, real life is real life. We can't control real life. We can't. As much as we would want to, it's what we have to do. Exactly. That's just as I had said. In order for the DM to do their job, the party leader has to do their job. And the party leader has to pass that information to the DM. Because in order for a DM to make sure that they have NPCs, then they need to know, all right, when do I need NPCs? We do have 3 Jalilis that are in charge of that, of all of the monsters. And they need to know when and where and who, so that they can set those things up. And they get that information from the DMs. If the DM doesn't have the when, the where, and the who, they don't have that information to give to the monsters. Okay. And again, important. It's your job as the leader of the party to make sure your party is there. If a member of your party has to drop out, because real life is what it is, right? Try to have an alternate. Okay? Because if you don't have an alternate, the run is still going to go, whether you're missing somebody or not. Okay? So, pick not only when you pick your party, but you might want to consider, okay, there are a variety of players who can and will and want to fill in any slot. Okay? I was like, all right, I want to go, but I go all the time. So I won't be a primary. A good example. Acacia Rose, who we've already said is also a dungeon master. Because she is the leader of the black market, because she is the black market liaison, it is in her vested interest to get up to the deep roads every single chance she can get. All right? As a player. So she puts herself on standby all the time. So that's something to keep in mind, is to have somebody in mind as a standby. She's not the only one. There are several players who run on standby. I've heard somebody say one time, it's like, well, she goes all the time. Why can't I go? It's like, well, you know what? It doesn't have anything to do with that. The fact is, she was on standby, and her class and professions fit in what they needed. Okay? It isn't because they like her more. Well, whether they do or not, it doesn't matter. Okay? Fact is, she was needed, and she was available, so she went. So if you want to be on standby, that's right. That's the next thing I'm about to say. Let me finish this statement before I go there. If you want to be on standby, have as many skills at your disposal as possible. Okay. So, going with what was just said, and is very accurate. If you want to be on a run, make sure that your name is out there. Okay? Make sure that your name is in that box with all of the things that you can do when you're available, what kind of runs you would like to do. So that the leaders can look at that and say, okay, these people fit with the criteria I have. And if you don't get picked up, if you put yourself out there, you've put yourself out there a few times, and you're like, 3 runs have passed and I didn't get to go on any of them. Well, it is not because they didn't like you. Okay? It is only because your times were not ones that were available for a run at that moment. I am working on getting more dungeon masters. Okay? I need dungeon masters and monsters in order to make runs happen. So, if you know anyone who's actually interested in being a dungeon master, and I'm going to talk about that too, then I'll put you to work. Thank you for bringing that up. That is true. The whole thing, this is about fun. All right? If you're not having fun, we're doing it wrong. All right? You're out there to have fun. Okay? go into it thinking that. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because it's important. Okay. It is important. Brings me up to another point. Always, if you want to go on a run, pass it on to everyone else. That not only do you want to put your name out there, but those dungeon masters, the ones listed on that sheet down there, those are people that you're going to want to add to your friends list because you're going to be in contact with them, especially if you're a leader. If you want to lead a run. And just because you lead one run doesn't mean you need to lead all of the runs. Okay? Or if you are in a run and you're finding out that the times you have available do not coincide with the runs that you're seeing and you need a different time, hey, step up and take the leader and be a run leader for that. Okay? Start gathering your own party. And if you're thinking, hey, you know what? I'm more beta. I'm not really the leadership type. Well, that's okay too. What that means is that when you're gathering your party together, you pick someone that you know is a leadership type. Okay? So that you can hand that over to them. All right? There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Okay? Is all of that making sense so far? Okay. All right, next thing. Dungeon Masters. For those of you, yeah, I know we still haven't gone into the run yet, and I apologize. Dungeon Masters. For those of you that want to be Dungeon Masters, key elements for that are to be able to maintain contact with all the players, to know the row. All right? Rules of engagement are important if you're a dungeon master. If you're a party leader, okay, you should know those things because you're in the Great Alliance. All right? But as a dungeon master or a judge, yeah, I know they're huge. You know, I've done my best to make it so that it's not so difficult to wade through, that everyone can get what they want out of it. But as a dungeon master, it's important you know these things. Okay? And you may think, okay, I want to be a dungeon master, but I don't know the rope. Well, guess what? There are so many of my classes are online. It does require a little bit of homework. But if you want to be a dungeon master or a judge, maybe you might need to do a little homework. Or if you're a reading person, read through it and ask me questions. I'm always open for questions. Maybe I'm not here 24/7, but I'll still get back to you. All you have to do is talk to one of the other leaders and they'll get to me. You know, one of the magisters, Argeland, Ivy, Vark, or a lot of your guild leaders like Jalil McTavish or I'm looking in the room. I apologize. Obviously, Valsharis Coyote, Jalil Scorpio, Jalil Aaron. All of those people can reach me. Yeah, he's a judge. Any of the judges can help you, and they can answer questions too. All right. But if for some reason they don't know the answer, but most of the time they are, but if they don't, they can reach me and I'll help out. But the magisters and the judges are going to know those things, and they will help you navigate through the row so you can be a dungeon master. I need more dungeon masters. I love that. I want more. All right? Because for every if I have more dungeon masters, I can run more dungeons. All right? Brings to the next point. Monsters. And pass this to every swinging Richard you know. I always need monsters for the deep roads. So if you have an alt or want to make an alt to be a monster, I'm all for that. The point of contact, the liaison to all the monsters, is in the room right now. Jalil Devinok, Mershan. Yes. Being a monster is fun because you get to run around and there is no expectation of you. You know, your job is to hamper the heroes. So if you like being chaotic and running around like a chicken with your head cut off, eating chocolate cake with your toes, bam, you're you can do a monster. There's a difference between being a monster as an NPC. That's a monster. Regardless, if you're a player, you're not a monster. Even if you're a three-headed purple hydra, but you're a player, you're not a monster. Okay? And see, vampires are toys. I'm a necromancer. So that doesn't make you a monster. Anyway, that does actually bring up a good point, and I said it before and I'm going to say it again. The NPCs are vastly more powerful than the players. They are real monsters. They're the monsters. Out here in the PCs, in the player character world, no matter what race you are, you're not a monster. Okay? You may think of yourself as such, and hey, that's fine. You can think of yourself as such. But when you're going toe-to-toe with an NPC, and you wonder, hey, I'm a dragon and he's a dragon, how come he has 3 times as many hit points as I do? Or 4 times as many hit points? How come he does 4 times as much damage? How come he's more powerful than I am? Even though we're the same race. Well, the answer is he's an NPC. Or she. Most of our players are female, so I apologize if I keep saying he. I should probably say she, right? But I'm using the proverbial he. Just like the proverbial man. Okay? They are bosses. And that actually that brings up another point. There are levels to those monsters out there. Okay? There are boss monsters. There are mini boss monsters. And there are standard monsters. Okay? So for all of you who want to make a monster, or know someone who wants to make a monster, keep that in mind too, because your dungeon master will assign you what level of monster you are per dungeon. Now, if you're a Metallici, you're always going to be boss level. If you're an Illithid, you're always going to be boss level. Every other monster is going to be one of the three. A standard monster, which is still more powerful than a regular player, vastly. Mini boss or boss. But all Metallici and all Illithid are boss monsters. All right? And then there's raid boss monsters. Like the Deep Dragon. Deep Dragon is a raid level boss monster. 5 players are not going to take on that Deep Dragon unless it's like 5 Blood Knights or 5 Conclave members. Then they stand a chance, okay? Because those are your powerhouses, okay? No, 5 guild leaders will still get their hands stomped on, all right? And their heads stamped, handed to them. So I don't recommend, if the Deep Dragon's down there, I don't recommend you look for him or her unless your party makeup is pretty high level. And that brings up another good point. Just because the Deep Dragon's down there doesn't mean that you stepped into it, as they say. All right? Because the Deep Dragon may be down there doing their own thing, and you can hear them all the way across the dungeon. As long as you don't flick them in the nose, it's probably not going to mess with you. All right? It just means that they're overseeing the event. Okay? Just because the Deep Dragon shows up does not mean that you should start digging your grave. If you're a level 5 and you go and flick the Deep Dragon in the face, start digging your grave. So be smart and don't do that. All right. So yes, I need monsters. I need dungeon masters. Let's go back to the leaders. Another important thing that when you're gathering your party, what equipment they possess. All right. Do any of your party have magician's apples? Does any of your party have mind control resistance potions? Does any of your party have secret door detection potions? Does any of your party have hidden object detection potions? You know, what special equipment do they possess? Now, when you're selecting your party, that's probably not a process because not everybody's going to have those things. But after you have selected your party, find that out. And if they don't have those things, I recommend hitting the black market because you're going to want them. Stone to flesh potions might be a good thing to add to your list of, I should bring these. Okay. Yeah, you know, when you get to the black market, you know, it's there. Deal with them as needs to be done. Um, you may be bartering. You know, there are a lot of things going on. That's role play is for role play. All right. Okay. Hmm. Those are all key elements, and I know that there's a million other things to tell you. So we will continue on. But any questions thus far? Any comments? None? Mm-hmm. Yes, Jalil Azael. Okay. The leader of the black market is Acacia Rose. The potions can be either. If you have the components, you bring them to an alchemist and they can make them. The black market does sell the potions, though. Or if you have the components and bring it to the black market, that'll also help. Talk to the black market. The black market has has the list. Oh yes. Um, as a leader, you should be asking those things. But as a player, if you already know that, that is good information. As I said a minute ago, as a leader, when you should find out what items people have, that does include things that you got from Cantino or from past runs. Excuse me. Excuse me. Ooh. Yes, shopkeep Meriden Bainwright is is good. And if you need to know how to reach the black market, go to the tavern, Lion's Head Tavern. All of the barmaids in there can can direct you to who you need to talk to. Okay. Hmm. Oh, Yeah, actually, thank you for bringing that up. A lot of a lot of quest givers and NPCs are alts, so keep that in mind. They are they are alts of other people. Like I would not want uh, Raven Mist over here. It's a little raven running her elf as a monster, as an NPC monster in the Deep Roads. If she wanted to do that, I would ask her to make an alt to do it. Whether that alt is an elf, or a monkey, or a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater, it would still be not her main character. All right? So treat those NPCs nice, okay? Because they are still players. Now, they're not going to go and have a beer with you afterwards, most likely, unless it's a GA battle. GA battles, yeah, they'll probably switch over to their mains in order to have a beer, but they might not. But in the Deep Roads, they're not going to. They might all be sitting around playing cards while you guys are role playing, especially if you're paradising. You know, they'll probably be sitting there playing what's that game you guys like so much? Um Shoot. Greedy, yes. They might be sitting around playing playing greedy while you guys are running through the dungeon, you know, and then they find their cue. Oh, it's my cue. I get to go out there and attack now. And so they're going to be hanging out, doing their things. I know that we have a greedy table up there for the monsters. um, just realize that if you're a monster, you know, just because that people haven't queued you in doesn't mean you can't be having fun. Of course, you know, the earlier you queue in, then the earlier you get to do your thing. But you can still goof around with the rest of the monsters. There's something highly amusing about 5 monsters. You know, you got an ogre and a Metallica and a gelatinous cube and a beholder sitting around a table playing cards while a group of elves, dwarves, and humans are walking through the dungeon. Okay? Highly amusing. And think about that. But, you know, hey, that makes it even more fun, right? You know? The problem about walking into a bar when you don't have any legs, it's harder. And also, bars hurt really hard when you smack them with your head. You know? Not as much fun as it sounds. Anyway, so back to running a dungeon. So knowing what skills and items that your players have as the leader is important. You know, the potions about detecting secret doors and hidden objects, important. You get out there on the dungeon. Make sure you look around. Okay? Don't just walk around and skip and hop and Some dungeons you can fly, some dungeons you can't. That depends on the dungeon master. Dungeon master is going to decide you can't fly in this dungeon, and as Faye, you're going to be like, man, I only know how to fly, and so you're going to be dragon. But dungeon master's call. He gets to make that decision, or she, because there's a lot of things going on. They may have plans because the dungeon master is rolling out what goes on. They're telling you a story. They're telling the story of what's going on. And sometimes flying interrupts that story. All right. My apologies. Still more people that don't know I'm teaching class. So they're rolling out the story, and if you are a dungeon master, you're rolling out the story. You're telling people what they hear, what they see, what they smell, what they feel in the air. And some races have different degrees of what they can attain. Example, wolves are going to have a higher sense of smell. So you're going to be telling them more, maybe even sending them a private IM saying, hey, you smell blood 200 meters down the corridor. Or you have an elf in your party. You send them a message saying, hey, you hear the sound of water quarter mile down the corridor that nobody else does. Brings up another point. The dungeon out there, you're in it. Don't let size fool you. All right? Your dungeon master is going to make those determinations. If you see that the corridor only lasts 100 meters, doesn't mean it's 100 meters long. It could be 100 meters long. Or it could be a mile long. Okay? Your dungeon master is going to let you know those things. That is the dungeon master's job, to set the stage. They are setting the stage for you. Okay? And you as a dungeon master, that is what you're doing. You are telling a story. The story is being unfolded. Okay? Now, a lot of times, dungeons are run in voice, so it doesn't take near as long. Paradisers, it's different, That's why it'll take you 3 or 4 runs to get through the whole thing, because you're typing all that out. That's why I give classes in voice. Because if I were to type all these things out, my classes run about an hour. If I were to type it all out, my classes would take 4 hours. Okay? No. Not this little black duck. Not happening. But what? It's why I don't run Paradise runs. But you have other dungeon masters who do. Okay? And I'm great with that. I have no issue with it. That's why we have dice. Bringing up dice. If you are picking a lock, whether you're on a Paradise run or a regular run, your judge is going to be rolling dice to find out if you succeeded. Did you trigger the trap? Are you poisoned? Are you going to die? Red Wizard has shot the food. The dice are still used even if you're not on a Paradise run. Okay? If you're going down the hallway your DM or your judge, your DM may roll it themselves, or they may tell the judge, hey, every 100 meters that they walk, roll the dice, okay? Because a random event may occur, okay? Or you are searching avidly. You have you've taken a potion that allows you to detect hidden objects. Okay? So you are searching. So you were searching really hard. Okay? That means that the DM or the judge is definitely going to be rolling every so many feet. Or when they come across something they know is there, then they will be adding pluses to your roll. All right? You guys are walking down the hall. There are piles of rubble on either side of you. Okay? There's a smell of dust and must in the air. You can hear the sound of dripping water both fore and aft. In front of you, because you have elves with you. It's about a half mile down. You can hear the sound of running water. And it is rushing water. Behind you, you can hear a trickle, probably about, 120 meters. Like I said, there are rocks and boulders everywhere. You have someone searching avidly. Dungeon Master tells his judge, or does it himself, to roll. Because he happens to know that behind one of those boulders is a potion of stone to flesh. All right. People are looking. You're role playing it well. You're doing a good job and everything. So the dungeon master's like, all right, because they're doing a good job, I'm going to continue to roll. And somebody finds it. Chances are it's going to be the person who drank the potion of finding hidden objects. That doesn't mean that when you're walking down those halls that you don't advance. Okay? If you walk into a 10 by 10 foot square and you only look around in that space, okay? You're not going to get through the dungeon. Sorry. I've been ignoring. I got 6 more IMs popped up, and I've been ignoring them. But they're blinking in my face, and I said, "All right, okay, all right." So, fortunately, I can do all 6 in just a few moments, and anyway. So it doesn't mean you just want to stand in that 10-foot space. Advance down those hallways. All right? There is a beginning and an end to every dungeon. There's a million things in between. but there is a beginning and an end. And if you don't move, you'll never get to the end. But also, if you don't look around on your way down there, everything that happened, everything that could be there, you missed it. Okay? So look around, pay attention. Your environment means something. Brings up another really good point. You're walking down the hallway. You see a lead pipe laying in the middle of in the middle of the hallway. Yes, there are broken rocks everywhere, dripping water and fungus and algae and monkeys. You see that lead pipe laying on the ground? Don't just walk past it. Look at it. Look at it. Role play with it. Do something with it. All right? May even pick it up. Take it with you. Yes, I know you only get a certain number of items when you walk out of that dungeon, but every single player at least walks out with one thing. Okay? You get one thing when you walk out of that dungeon, no matter what. So, as long as that many items are found. If you have 5 players and you find 5 items, everybody gets a thing. That's the way it is. If you get 6 items, obviously one of those items is going away. Okay? We'll get to that in a minute. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Both those things. Yes. All of the metals and the woods and the leathers and things of such nature, they can be brought to a professional, turn the ores into bars. The bars can be made into other things. Okay? Bring them to the black market. You can sell them and get other things from them. Okay? If you don't look around, you won't walk out of there with anything. Pay attention to your surroundings. Okay? I know in general there are 15 items in every dungeon. You have 5 players walking through there. And they walk out with nothing because no one looked around. They tried to go from the beginning to the end and skipped everything down throughout the middle. And so they walked out with nothing. All right? If you walked out with nothing, it's because you weren't paying attention. It was there. Okay? And yes, looking up is important. Does anyone here know what a baby illithid looks like? I'll answer that question in just a moment. I can't see if you're male or female. My apologies. So, night. I can't see everyone. Oh, female. Jalil Knight. Okay. If 5 players walk in there and they acquire 10 items, they still only get 1. But you get to pick the 5 that you wanted most. The other 5 go back into the deep roads for another run. Okay. That does not, however, that, you know, unless ores, leathers, or woods are in it, then you could possibly have a second item. Okay, let's say you picked up a lead pipe, and Bob picked up a piece of paper, and Joe picked up a cup, and Sally picked up a ring, and Fred picked up a monkey. All right, but you also found a vein of silver. All right, and then somebody was a miner, so they were able to click clack and get 6 ores out of it. All right. Well, not only did you do you have the lead pipe, but also because you had a miner in the party, you also have an ore. Okay. Does that make sense? Do you get that? All right. Party leader. This is important for you to know. What I just said, that's how loot runs. Okay? Tell your people, this is how loot runs. We go in there. We have, everybody can possibly get an item. It all goes collectively, ultimately. And then and any ores we find, we separate those at the end. Just because Bob was a miner and he got all the stuff, now he gets the lion's share because he's a miner. Okay? If you only found 6, then, chances are he's going to get 2 and everybody else is going to get 1. All right? But you as party leader, keep in mind, everybody goes in there should come out with something. Yes, basically correct. They don't count towards the single item that you get, but they are split up at the end. Unless, let's say you only found 4 items, but you also found a mine, and they gave you 6 ores. So you can say, all right, Bob, Sally, George, Fred, you get those 4 items, and Tom, you get to keep the 6 ores that you have. Does that make sense? It goes into the pool. I just gave you the list. The multiples will be leathers, woods, and metals. Might even be some stone out there. Everything else are unique items. To say that they're common items would not be accurate, because some of those ores are very, very rare. Yes, Argelin just gave you the answer again. If it seems unique, it is. If you see a lead pipe in the road and you think, hey, lead pipes are common, well, that was a unique item. It was a lead pipe. Okay, so you don't know what it is. You don't know what it does. Why do you need a lead pipe? Who knows? Let's go find out. All right? Someone's going to know. A lot of the items find up there are quest items. Okay? All right. Quest items. Just because it's not your quest item, it doesn't mean you shouldn't pick it up, because it's going to be useful for someone. I like talking about the lead pipe, so we're going to keep talking about lead pipe. You find lead pipe. All right. So it's not your quest item. Okay? But it will be somebody's quest item. You're going to help someone's quest along because you brought the lead pipe to the black market. Said, hey, I don't know what this is. I don't know what to do with it. I'm going to sell it to the black market. Get a handful of cash. And someone, the person who needed that lead pipe, goes to the black market and gets it. See what I'm saying? So when you find stuff, pick it up. All right. Now I know you weren't saying this, but it actually makes me think. If you find something unique out there, role play with it. Don't put it in your pocket and let it rot for 4 or 5 months. All right? Because someone is waiting on that item. Okay? And just because you don't know who it is, so you can't blackmail them. Just because you don't know who it is, don't put it in your pocket and keep it there. Role play with it. Soon as you get it, go to the black market. Go to Falks. Go to Zaskia. Go to Nifredel. Go to, obviously, Acacia. Go to your guild leader. Go to your favorite druid, whatever. Then I would suggest you go to Acacia. That's who you should be going to if that is what your role play is about. Because she's the one who runs the black market. All right? Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. If I tell you to go to someone, that is IC information. Okay? And that's right, Magister or Magister Apprentice. If one of us tells you, go to this person. All right, go to Sally. You have this thing. You have a mirror that you found in the deep roads. And I tell you, even if it's in IMs, if I say go to Sally, that's IC information. You should go. That's me telling you, go to Sally. If you don't, if you think, all right, well, that was OOC. Why would I know that? Well, you know that because I told you. All right? And yes, I am the game master, but I am also the magician. So if for some twist of fate you can't decide if it was the game master talking to you or the magician, ask me. I will answer for you. I will clarify. That information is mine to give. Humans, right? And same with the masters or the magister apprentice. If you don't know, am I still here? Okay. There we are. Some reason I wasn't at my podium, and I thought, I know I was. Okay. Yes. So that's an important thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. But anything you find, role play with immediately. It doesn't matter if your role play is blackmail. At least role play with it. Take it to Acacia in this case, but take it to someone. Role play with it. Don't keep it in your inventory for 5 months. Because I guarantee if I haven't seen it in role play, I'm gonna put it back out there. Okay? Now if it's not a unique item, putting it back out there is not gonna be that's cool. Like some things are, and some things are not. But I'm still going to make sure it gets out there. Jalil Thorne, Malikith Thorne over here, is in charge of loot. She is the one who sets up all my veins for me, all my the trees and the birds, the bees, the flowers, and the trees. She sets all those things up for me. So if she tells me I put all these things up and nobody picked anything up in that dungeon, then I'm going to know that leader didn't have their people look around. They just walk from the beginning to the end. Skip-diddy-doo, la 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 la. And fought monsters to the end. And that's all they did. Yes, okay, you role played. Awesome, you had fun. Cool. But don't come back to me later and say, hey, I went through this dungeon and we didn't get anything. I'm going to say, did you look? That's going to be my answer. All right? And it's not because I'm trying to be a jackhat. It's just the simple truth. If you don't look, you're not going to find. Does anyone disagree with me? All right. Thank you. Brings up another point. If you do meet, if you do meet monsters, I suggest you search their bodies. Because then that gives the dungeon master a chance to roll. Because they love that so much. And you might find something. You know? They might have something on them. Or, maybe a body part. Dungeon master is going to say, okay, this is what you find. That doesn't mean if you find the monster laying on the ground that you should walk up there and cut his wings off. Or hers. Okay? In a battle, yes, I recommend cut up those monsters. Because those are body parts. Hey, I'm a necromancer, right? But In a dungeon, you need to be role playing what you're doing. Okay? And the dungeon master will tell you if it's feasible and possible. Even in a battle, if you decide that you want to cut somebody's head off and you want to keep the head, you call me and I roll my dice to tell you if you succeeded in and walked away with a successful venture. Okay? Yeah. In battle it's three lines. But either way, if you're going to take something from a monster that's dead, you need to role play it out. And your dungeon master will roll to tell you if you got that. They know you destroyed it. If you're a leather worker, hey, you know what? That's different, right? You're going to have a much higher chance. There are certain classes, certain professions that can do certain things. So if you're a miner and you kill a Vulak and decide that you want to skin it, chances are you're not going to succeed. But go for it. More power to you. You should roleplay trying. All right? You probably won't succeed, but hey, you should definitely give it a shot. But if you have a Skinner in the party, my suggestion, get that bad boy up there and do the thing. If you have a spell sword in the party and a metallic eye has been taken down, call that spell sword up there. Because chances that you're going to get that that core out there, pretty slim. Spell sword, he has actually a chance. Or a blood knight, or a conclave member, a magister, you know? That all makes sense. All right, here's another thing. So most blood knights, you don't know who they are. All right? Okay, thank you for bringing that question up, Jill Knight. When you call that person over, remember all the loot is collective. Okay? The stuff you're picking up, that's collective. So it doesn't matter who does it. Whether it's Jim, Bob, Sally, Fred, or Tina. It's going into the pot. And then at the end, yes. Now, so you can count Fred out. Whatever. That was awesome. It's going into the pot. So at the end, the leader can say, all right, Fred, you found that cool monkey, so you know what? We're counting you out. You get to keep that one. All right. Joe, you skinned that Vulak. And you're a skinner and a leather worker. So I think you deserve to have that because you're a leather worker. All right. We have no leather workers in the party. All right. Let's say that Jim wasn't here. Bob replaced him. There's no leather worker in the party. Skin the Vulak. All right. So that leather is going to go to someone in the party. It's not going to go to the leather worker because there is no leather worker. All right. Brings up another point. If if your professions, if let's say by some twist of fate, you are a leather worker, you're a skinner, a leather worker, a carpenter, a, a woodsman, a miner, uh, and a blacksmith. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But let's say that you're all 6 of those things, that you have put in all the time and all the effort, and you are all of those things. That is awesome. You are helping your party, but it does not mean you get first dibs on all those things. All right? But your leader may decide, hey, you are so useful. They may decide to give you first dibs, but that's the leader's decision. Okay? But what I suggest, if it's random, ask your judge to roll dice. And say, okay, we have 5 party members. We have 7 oars. 3 of them are yellow colored. 3 of them are orange colored. 1 of them is black colored. We have 6 pieces of wood. One's red, one's white. 4 of them are blue. And we don't have, can you just roll for me and tell me who goes what? You can do that. That's perfectly logical. It's extremely fair. That's what the dice are for. Your judge can say, okay, bing, 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 bing. Bob got this, Sally got that, Tina got this, blah, blah, blah. That's fair. Okay? Okay. Does any of you remember Sable Ashbourne? She's been gone for like 3 or 4 years. She just reappeared out of the blue and said, hey, can I... And so I'm TPing her in. So when she gets in, she won't have voice. So someone please tell her to have a seat and turn her ears on. If you would be so very kind. Okay. So, environment, loot, party leaders, dungeon masters, all of these things make sense so far. Most excellent. So, as you might guess, environment. Environment is extremely important. If you don't know what's going on around you, how can you interact with it? Okay? That's like being in a vacuum. The Dungeon Master is unrolling a story for you. Okay? Or if you're the Dungeon Master, you're unrolling the story. Environment is important. They're unrolling the story. Play that story along. You are part of that story. Play into that story. Roll with it. Okay? If they tell you that there is a stream running through the cracks in the hallway that you're walking down, and you can hear tinkle, 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 deep, 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 deep. Hey, try to figure out what that is. All right? Is that a standard noise? Is that something you hear all the time? Why is the Dungeon Master making those noises? There must be a reason, right? Yeah, there's a reason. He's telling a story, or she is telling a story. They're building the environment for you. Okay? Everything around you means something. Now, it may just mean a tiny thing that's for your role play, that you know that that it's moist in here and there's water running down. Maybe that's all it means. Who knows? But that still paints the picture for you, does it not? The story is being written. Or it could have a more nefarious reason. All right. So environment. Knowing your party. Knowing what they have. What they can do. What their professions are. What their classes are. Because every class brings a strength to you. Okay? Mages, priests, archers. They all have their own individual thing too. Like, example, you have ranger in the party. There's a decent chance that ranger is a pretty good tracker, right? Because what do rangers do? They track. So, good chance that ranger could be running point for you and figuring out what the sights and smells and beasties are around the corner. Give you a heads up so that you're a little bit more ready and you don't get caught off guard. Because being surprised, not quite awesome. You went from 5 party members down to 1 in 5 minutes. Oops, that sound I heard about someone screeching in my ear actually meant something. I ran down the hallway and let my entire party get cut down from behind because I didn't pay attention to the environment. Oops. You have a ranger scouting. That's less likely to happen, isn't it? So party makeup is important. Now, does that mean that, does that mean that if, you're going through the list of available party members and you're looking at your time slots and at their people's time slots, and the only thing that you can find are 5 Rangers, and you say, well, I can't go because I only have 5 Rangers. Well, you can still do it. It just means that you're going to have to be relying more heavily on potions and items. You're gonna need to make up for your weaknesses with strengths elsewhere. It's like, all right, we have 5 Rangers. That's all we got. We need to make sure that everybody is carrying healing potions. We need to make sure that we definitely have detect secret door potions. Oh, Bob, you're a dark elf. All right, so I know that you can see you can see good in the dark. You can see perfect in the dark. And Sally, you're a wolf. All right, you two are. You run in the front, you run in the back. So I need to make sure that we don't get surprised. I know we're golden. Everybody's got healing potions, and you two have detect secret door potions, and Tim, you're in the middle. I know we don't actually have healers, so you have all our extra stuff. You and Bob and Lori, you're flanking. You need to protect Tim because Tim's keeping control. Yeah. Now, if one of those rangers is a field medic, guess what? That covers your healer base. Not as good as a priest, not as good as a druid, not good as a shaman, but you still have a healer. That was a good observation there. But anyway, you get me. All right. So, any questions? I think I've basically rolled everything out for you. But I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Because I am Socratic. All right. And for those of you that don't know what that means yes, I walk in there with a class in my head. But most of the class is designed about answering questions. Now, I walked in here thinking that no one would have questions, and so I had a huge amount of information to give, and so I did. But, if you have scenarios in your head, if you have a breakdown on any one of these pieces of information that you want to know more about, this is your chance to ask. And again, for the leaders, and you're looking at those professions and those classes, look at those races too. Okay? Look at those races too. Because different races have different natural affinities. Okay? Obviously, wolves have a very high sense of smell. Elves have heightened hearing. Okay? Doc Alfar can take a whole lot of pain without doing anything. Hurt me, baby. It's not gonna, So, yeah, and they can see in the dark. But, so, races, vampires, they're going to be able to smell blood pretty well. And dragons have special abilities too. Okay? Dragons can do a lot of things. Wolves have better sense of smell. That's why why you have the wolf there. Okay? Every race has their own individual thing. Okay? Dragons can't do everything. But dragons are important, just like everybody else. You're in a deep roads run. The important thing a dragon can bring to you is that natural detect magic. Balados for attending, Zidal. Much appreciated. All right. So, I think I covered all the bases. Are there any bases I did not cover? Like, Argland, you're my head dungeon master. Are there anything I missed? Okay. Most excellent. Then I will ask one more time for questions over anything I've discussed today. Okay, good. And so did Nifredel. These are important things. Most excellent. Okay. Then, in that case, I will go ahead and close this out and let you all go about your business. I do appreciate. Yes. Okay. All right, hold on. Looks like I got a question here. Dragons, as long as it's in their hand, can detect magic naturally. It is a dragon. It's a special ability all dragons have, as long as it's in their hand. Okay? But yes, that makes them very special in this case. Okay. Answer that. All right. Now, Balados for your attendance. Vidaus for now.